Hey everyone, I'm Brian Wood, PR manager at Wolfram. I'm here with Jon Woodard, who is the CEO of Wolfram Blockchain Labs. How's it going, Jon?
That's pretty good. All things considered, I know we got a whole multitude of things going on, both here and the
Of
world.
course,
But yeah, all things considered, pretty good.
of course. Well, that's good to hear. Jon's here to give me the lowdown on Wolfram Blockchain Labs and kind of let me know what they've been up to over the past year. So first, I guess just give us a little bit of an overview. What exactly is Wolfram Blockchain Labs? Where did it come from? How did it get started?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so first, just to introduce myself, of course, I'm Jon Woodard. I have an undergrad in economics background and a grad in engineering. So I'm kind of feel like I'm maybe a little bit well positioned for blockchain or decentralized technologies because it's kind of interesting. It's like it's not only like a technology sort of part to it, but then it's also like um, affecting kind of social areas as well. And then
Yeah.
also kind of like legal too. So it's kind of all of these areas are different tracks. So there's almost like this movement around blockchain and decentralized technologies, just in general.
Yeah. It's been interesting seeing a lot of otherwise disparate groups of people sort of coming together on blockchain, where you're like, oh, you've got a little bit of the social side, the technology side,
Yeah,
the mathematics side. There's
yeah.
a lot going on there.
Yeah, exactly. Like you have like folks who are kind of in this, I guess it was a cypherpunk kind of movement, maybe that started in the
Cypherpunk.
90s. There was a whole mailing list and everything. So it's been like really percolating through like different subgroups in society. So it's really the social movement around privacy. And so you have like a lot of folks interested in cryptography, which I was not until like until sort of getting more involved. But kind of what I found is you have to, because it's kind of this movement, you have to buy into it a bit. Um, so like for me, that means like you have to, or like maybe in like crypto speak in a way, you have to kind of take your fiat money and put some of that into crypto.
put your crypto where your mouth
Yeah,
is, so to speak.
exactly, exactly. Again, like
Yeah.
not no investment advice. It's not
Right.
investment
Oh
advice,
yeah.
but like yes, I think you kind of have to like really participate in the social kind of aspects of it. So I think kind of having like a social science background a bit and engineering background a bit has helped in that. Um, and like you said, Brian, like as far as like you see a lot of different groups kind of come together, I think that's a really astute
Mhm.
observation. When it comes to your question about Wolfram Blockchain Labs, I think really what happened um, at Wolfram was that they're like naturally again because there's this social movement and companies are made up of people. A lot of people within Wolfram research were interested in different um, cryptography areas, blockchain, privacy kind of areas, and so they were interested in Bitcoin as it came out. Um,
Mhm.
and so what happened actually with Wolfram Alpha was that our users were making requests, what's the price of Bitcoin? And so we, as the Alpha team does, they add more features to Alpha. And then internally, people were interested in doing stuff with blockchain as well. So we did that there. Then in 2018, we kind of formalized Wolfram Blockchain Labs as a subsidiary, and we then like pulled together all of these areas in the company that were really working about things and kind of, um, in a way, centralized our
Yeah.
we centralized our expertise and the projects about decentralized technologies.
Yeah.
So that's
There's
kind of what
always that
happened there.
irony. You
Yes.
got to sort of get the experts together in order for them to split everything apart, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly,
Uh,
exactly. So that's kind of how that worked out.
okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, and it does make sense that you would end up the CEO of blockchain labs, like you said, from your background and
Right.
interests. So, what kinds of projects do you work on at Wolfram Blockchain Labs then?
Yeah. So there are really kind of four areas that we work on. Um, one are like I'll just start kind of with the most foundational in a way. We
Mhm.
do Well, I suppose that's debatable, but I'm just going to go in this order. um, Blockchain integrations, where we actually work with blockchain companies that are out there, or distributed ledger technology companies that are out there. Um, those companies themselves kind of come in a couple different flavors in a way. There are for-profit companies, and then there are nonprofit foundations. But our blockchain integration work really centers around those companies, where we connect those ledgers to the Wolfram language, and we really make the data that they have on those ledgers. Those will be either the exchange of like crypto on the ledgers. There'll be smart contracts and other stuff. We connect that to the Wolfram language so it's accessible and computable. So that's kind of the foundational thing that we do in a way, or one of the foundational things. Then the other thing that we do is really what Wolfram research in many ways is known for. We work with computational facts. And so when it comes to of course, of like fly almost lands on my nose. Um, that showed like I'm committed, but also like I guess watching this stuff. So when it comes to computational knowledge, I think where it's really a foundational thing for Wolfram in many ways. I really feel like that's a really big strength that we have at Wolfram Blockchain Labs, where we're taking that computational knowledge and providing that through what's called like Oracle services to smart contracts that run on blockchains or run in like a distributed fashion. Um, so that's another really big area for us, and where we have this unique advantage because, as you know, Brian, like Wolfram Alpha has been around for like 10 years commercially. And even before that, kind of as a skunkworks project within Wolfram Research, it's around, it started like maybe 5 years before that. So it's kind of been around for like 15 years on the computable data side of things. And on the algorithmic side of things, I think that's part of Stephen Wolfram's vision from the foundation of Mathematica and Wolfram language like over 30 years ago. So we're like building on these huge set of tools for this area of smart contracts. So it's like, or computational contracts, which would be like the more complex kind of version of smart contracts. So these contracts themselves need, I think kind of in the legal kind of way, they talk about them being like operational clauses. And that's to say you have some information that then would trigger a clause. So like you need to know whether it's rained or not. You need to know whether something really, to kind of generalize it, something happened in the world or not. And so one of the cool things is we can take really, 30 plus years of knowledge around that's available in our algorithmic base and available in our knowledge base, and really apply that to this relatively new problem, which I think shows like the foresight of Stephen Wolfram and Wolfram Research in general. And so it's like, as a subsidiary, it's pretty great to like to use this great technology to do stuff. So that's computational facts. Then the next area I would say is crypto analytics. And this kind of is really cool because we've seen interest here from actually crypto hedge funds who they're trading with digital assets. And really there's going to be this long-term kind of migration of assets to digital assets. And when you look at like, again, like these foundational DLTs that are out there, this is one of the major use cases. I would say like Ethereum, which a lot of people call maybe the second generation of ledgers, that's like really one of their major use cases with smart contracts was to make all of these tokens. Many of the tokens that people see out there now, they came about because of the ERC20 standard contract on Solidity, which is on in Solidity, which is on Ethereum. So you have these, financial services that are now trading. Wolfram Language again has this huge array of tools for financial reporting,
Yeah.
um, charts and graphics and other sort of visualizations. So kind of there, we're again like building with um, these tools on top of this already great foundation of stuff. So that's kind of this crypto asset analytics area. And then lastly, or firstly, and this is why I chuckled about the foundational thing, is education.
Yeah.
So again, like we have this huge strength in education. We're used, globally in from like K-12 to higher education to R&D and industry to production areas. We're used all over the place, but education I think is this area where people are using us all over the place. Um, and so we're really good. I think you guys at the Wolfram U team, who's like behind the great production of this video as well. We're doing so many great things there. And here's this new area where there's social stuff, there's a technology component, and there's a legal component. So that really fits in well, I think, with a lot of drive in higher education to kind of meld technology and learn about
Yeah.
where the world is going. So education, we have a MOOC where we're just on the cusp. We have like visualizations and other stuff that we need to do to complete it.
Yeah.
But that's really this other area that's really cool that we've been working on.
Yeah, and I can vouch that those Wolfram U courses can be very, very in depth and are usually pretty impressive. So I know it takes a lot of work to get those together for sure.
Yes, indeed. And like, thanks again to the Wolfram U team.
Yeah, and yeah, so it sounds like you sort of just as you said, the cross disciplinary nature of blockchain seems to have led Wolfram Blockchain Labs to a very cross disciplinary kind of approach to things, where you've got a little bit of the knowledge retrieval, a little bit of the analytics, little, and obviously, like you said, the education seems almost obvious from just everything else that you are working on. So what else? What have you? What specific kinds of things have you been doing that are kind of new with Blockchain Labs in the last year or so?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. I would say one that, like, just to point out to those of folks who have attended WTC or 2020 or are going to attend, um, it's great because we actually have I think a long talk where we go into more technical detail. So if you're watching this like on some social media, that you should, if you can, go to WTC. If you didn't, see if you can get a ticket some retroactively in some way. But yeah, so our team has worked really hard this year, and I would love to mention everybody, but I know it's like really short time, and I'm probably going over. But Johan and Christian and the team have really done a lot of great work on extending our core platform for blockchain integrations, and that's like the actual thing that folks connect to,
Right.
that we actually use to connect different blockchains to our platform. Um, what we've done is actually begun to create and are very close to having available is a blockchain integration framework to make it easier for us to connect and for
Mm.
other people to connect as well. So that's a really cool development over the past year. And that's really cool. And also that, of course, like with that, we have like some announcements on new deals as well. Unfortunately, like I can't break those over this, but
Yeah, yeah.
those should come out at some point too. So
Well,
that's really great to see.
could you give people an idea of what blockchains we do already connect to, though?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we connect to Bitcoin, um, and that's like Bitcoin BTC,
Mhm.
um, Ethereum, ETH Ethereum, Arc, which is pretty cool. We worked with those guys, so those guys are great.
Mhm.
Um, multi-chain, which we have an instance of multi-chain. They're a permissioned blockchain. So that's kind of what consortiums use to create consortium blockchain groups. That's kind of like, because they use a permissioned blockchain, the public can't have access to that. So
Yeah.
when I mentioned like Bitcoin and Arc and Ethereum, those are all public blockchains. And we not only have their mainnet, but we also have testnet versions as well. And you can access those, right now. Go to our documentation and access those right now in Wolfram language. And you can both read the transactions from those or the smart contracts from those, and you can also write or send transactions to those blockchains through Wolfram language. So those are the ones that we have now. Again, like, great questions, so people get more context. And again, like, what we have are like deals where we're adding more blockchains, and so that's pretty exciting.
So without getting, without giving away any trade secrets or anything,
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you have planned for the future of Blockchain Labs?
Yeah, sure. Just to go back a little bit too, like, we've expanded with computational facts, with crypto analytics, and like education. Like I said, we're on the edge of the release. For the future, I think in general, let me like say that it's always surprising to me in many ways that people think about the future in kind of physical terms in many ways. And what I mean by that is people are constantly thinking about electrical vehicles. There were big announcements from some of those companies today in terms of battery technology, or yesterday as well. So it's kind of like people have this view of the future that's often in very physical terms, but they're not always thinking about the future in terms of software. And I'll tell you from like just an engineering background, in a way, that like it's going to be faster, or we'll see a lot of things, a lot of efforts and a lot of developments faster in kind of the software space than we will see in like the physical space. So it's always amazing that like the physical space not only captures people's minds, but they're also like thinking about these visions of the future there, and not always thinking about the vision of the future with software.
Right.
And I think, again, with when you look at like this social aspect of decentralized space, the technology aspect, and the legal aspect, again, there's just going to be this huge change in the future when it comes to software and how it affects our lives. I mean, we look at smartphones, we look at computers, we look at kind of augmented reality. Like, now people walk around with, earbuds, that's augmented reality, watches, augmented reality in a way, as far as like the monitoring your heart rate, other items, your oxygen levels, etc.
Right.
With you can do with your watch, all tied into your phone. It's kind of amazing. Like, we're already living in this augmented reality, and the same is true for these computational contracts that we think about it. They're going to be out, like, just behaving autonomously.
Yeah.
And I think Wolfram is going to be at the core of that, because we've done so much work, a lot of heavy lifting in the past, to have the algorithm base and the knowledge base to interact with those computational contracts and trigger these decisions about the world. So if we're thinking about like what we see physically in the world as far as electric vehicles and potentially autonomous vehicles, well, it's obvious that we're going to have autonomous contracts and computational contracts
Right.
out there engaging in the world, like kind of on these distributed ledgers, or kind of outside of these distributed ledgers in this decentralized fashion. So I would say that's kind of the vision for the future. But like anything, who knows when that's going to happen?
Of course. Yeah.
Right? Like, that's
That
a
is
future that we all like imagine. Who knows?
aspirational. Yeah.
Exactly. It's aspirational. So like, the thing that I would kind of back up and say is that if we imagine this physical world is happening and these changes are happening, then absolutely software will happen, because software
Right.
is also going to be participating in these physical changes. So with that in mind, of like where I see like this future, and where I see like Wolfram Blockchain Labs is kind of the subsidiary of Wolfram Research and the R&D that Wolfram Research is driving. We know these things are going to happen in the future. We know that we're going to participate, and we're kind of grinding away and moving at that. One, in terms of like the blockchain integration stuff that I mentioned earlier. So we're going to increase the performance and the ease of use as far as those unified functions that work across different blockchains that Wolfram Blockchain Labs will create. I think particularly you're going to see more and higher performance in this analytics kind of use case, because that's one of the things that I think we've been able to develop over time. We've worked with kind of the DLT companies to integrate them with this blockchain integration. And if there's anyone from like a DLT company or foundation, this is like your cue to go to the Wolfram Blockchain Labs website and fill out a form and contact us. So you have that real layer, but now the other really exciting thing is that also with developers and users that kind of make up, you know, how things are moving along in the space as a whole, you're going to see a lot of stuff, I think, in terms of analytics.
Gotcha.
It's one of, again, the strength of Wolfram's in terms of data science and analysis. So it's only natural that, you know, we're going to be really great and really useful for developers and users in this area.
Yeah. Cool.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just, it is, I think it's to speak to what you were talking about with the software versus hardware. I think it's a lot easier for people to picture themselves using, you know, the smartwatch or the autonomous car, not really thinking about all the stuff that's going on behind the background. And I think that, you know,
exactly,
sort of behind the scenes is where Wolfram kind of shines in a lot of ways. And I always think of people, you know, if they haven't heard of Wolfram, then they've usually heard of Wolfram Alpha, and they don't realize that that's actually powering, you know, all kinds of stuff, you know, answering services like Siri and stuff like that. Sort of,
right.
There's a lot of that. So, and I mean, they say that blockchain is the future. So I think you're spot on. It's going to be pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a really good point, because like when you look at that computational facts area in the computational intelligence area, we've already made this tremendous mark at Wolfram Research. We've been right there when virtual assistants were kind of conceived.
Right.
Like we were literally right there. And so when you see many of the virtual assistants that are out there just kind of in the world, again, like acting on information in your environment in some cases and giving people responses and information, I think this kind of the approach that we took in terms of making authoritative data computable is the exact same approach that's necessary for this computational facts area. And again, I think what people are going to see in the future in that area is stuff is going to move from the testnet versions that we have out in the wild that people can actually poke around with now. They're going to be actually out in the wild and being used. So that's really exciting as well. And I think that in general, we're learning more about how people are planning to use things within computational contracts or smart contracts. So we're getting better and better in that particular area as well. And as you said, I mean, distributed ledgers are kind of this backbone in many ways of these computational contracts or smart contracts that are out there. They're able to run on them or better inform them depending on the model of the ledger itself. But it may be that they replace systems and processes that people are familiar with now, like maybe the title of your house or how real estate is kind of changes hands from one person to another, and instead you'll have entities because people will tokenize buildings or maybe even communities themselves, and people will buy like small pieces of those things in a way. It's kind of fascinating to think about. But for the large part, and this would be, I think, a success, is, people won't really see it at all. It'll just be taking place kind of behind the scenes, and they can take it for granted, and that would be phenomenal.
And it's great. I mean, it's good on both sides, because if you well, it's simple for people, I guess, is the main upshot of that. It's people don't have to worry about what's going on behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. So,
right, exactly, and I don't think people want to. Like, I don't think it's necessary. I mean, that's what technology really should do. It should make our lives easier and not make it difficult to understand what's going on. And I think with a lot of the applications that will come out, over time in this decentralized space, they will give people more options around privacy, make their lives hopefully more secure, and make it easier and give them more options and kind of more freedom in a way. So I think that kind of is a good segue as well to what we're doing in education, and that's to help, again, like with the social aspect, technology aspect, and legal aspect, is make sure that people kind of have a good understanding of what's going to happen, both the interesting aspects, the aspirational aspects, as you mentioned before, and then also like the limitations in many ways. So I think with the education, one, it's like we're right on the cusp of releasing stuff. We just have the visualizations and other stuff that needs to be done there. And again, like if anyone is out there watching this and they wanted to use materials or look at materials, absolutely contact us, because we can just make stuff available. But we hope to expand there into like developer stuff as well. So not just like general education, but then also education for developers.
So so we're trying to make everyone's lives a little bit simpler and hopefully more secure along the way. And I think that seems like a good note to kind of wrap up on. So this is really impressive stuff. Honestly, I'm really excited about a lot of the blockchain stuff that's been going on with Wolfram lately. Anyone watching at home, you can, as Jon said several times, you can go to wolframblockchainlabs.com. Find out more. Watch out for the course that hopefully should be up on Wolfram U whenever it's completed. And if you're working on any blockchain, cryptography, DLT projects, definitely keep the Wolfram language in mind, because we got a lot of new and upcoming features there. So thanks a lot for talking to me, Jon.
Yep, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. You can check out other Wolfram Tech Talks, live coding streams, and more on the Wolfram Research YouTube channel, or see what else is new at wolfram.com.